The Vanderbeekers of 141st Street, chapter 22, and it's December 25th, so it's Christmas. But let's talk about 24. Remember, it was a Christmas Eve dinner, and everybody was at Miss Josie and Mr. Jeet's, and Papa gave a toast at the dinner about how much he loved living there. And then the violin teacher, I think it's Mr. Van Houten. I think it was. Hold on, let me make sure that's what his name is. Yeah, Mr. Van Houten said that that Isa had played, so remember she ran up and played in front of the Biederman's door and was so mad at him, and he said that she'd played so good, and then they found out that Mr. Van Houten had been the Biederman's daughter's violin teacher, and that the violin that she uses is actually the one that the Biederman's daughter used. So then Isa feels sorry for him, and so they're kind of understanding why he might want them to leave. Okay, December 25th. Oliver was the first to wake up. He had never outgrown the habit of getting up early to scope out the gift situation under the tree on Christmas morning. He crept downstairs, avoiding the squeaky step, and glanced at Papa, who was snoring on the couch, to which he had been displaced since Uncle Arthur and Auntie Harrigan had taken his room and Mama had bunked with Lainey and Hyacinth. Satisfied that Papa was sound asleep, Oliver searched under the tree for gift bags that had his name. There was a compact, heavy box from his parents, which he assumed was a box set of books, hopefully the Lord of the Rings trilogy plus The Hobbit. There was a gift from his twin sisters, plus a paper-thin one from Lainey. A lumpy present from Hyacinth was tied prettily in one of her much-adored ribbons. Oliver looked at the presents from his family, and a strange feeling settled over him. It was a newish feeling. He had felt it the day before when Papa had scolded him and his sisters for the way they had treated the Biederman. He looked at his offerings, hand sanitizer, and rubber bands, and an old piece of candy all wrapped messily in tied newsprint. He hardly felt proud of them. Nothing like the books his parents had chosen for him, or the bizarre knitting he was sure Hyacinth had spent hours working on. Those presents had love in them. His presents had, well, nothing. Oliver scooped up the presents he had planned to give and ran upstairs to his bedroom. He dumped the gifts in the trash, took out 6 pieces of paper, and started to write. On Christmas morning, Jessie opened her eyes and was relieved to find herself in her own bed, in her own room. Across the room, Isa stirred. "Oh, hey," Isa said in her groggy, I just woke up voice. "What's up?" "It's Christmas morning," said Jessie. On cue, they heard Hyacinth and Lainey burst out of their room and run giggling down the stairs, followed by Mama's steady footsteps, to where Papa woke abruptly on the couch, yelling, "Down with foxes and meerkats!" Franz followed suit a few seconds later, his claws clicking on the wooden steps as he raced downstairs to see why there was a commotion that he was not yet a part of. The twins heard little feet run up the stairs and then up and down the hallway. "It's Christmas! It's Christmas! Time for presents!" yelled Lainey as she bounced down the stairs again. The twins shrugged on hoodies and ran into Oliver, who was leaving his bedroom at the same time. "What's that?" Isa asked, pointing at the envelopes in his hands. "You'll see," he said cryptically. Downstairs they found Lainey yanking on Mama's arm, begging her to let them open presents before breakfast. Hyacinth sat by the tree, adding flourishes to her gift wrapping. "Might as well open the family presents now," Mama relented. "We'll let Auntie Harrigan and Uncle Arthur sleep past 6:30. The Vanderbeekers surrounded the tree. I'd like to give out my presents first, Oliver announced. The family was speechless. Oliver, in the whole entire history of his life, had never offered to give out his presents first. He passed out the mysterious envelopes while his family watched him in stunned amazement. Hyacinth was the first to open hers. Coupon good for half an hour of button exploration, Hyacinth read. She tackled Oliver in jubilation, too overwhelmed to say thank you. After he detangled himself from her, he pulled 3 heart-shaped buttons from his pocket and handed them over. Hyacinth was rendered mute, which Oliver took as a positive sign. She loves her buttons. Lainey needed help reading her card. Isa looked at it and read, "Coupon good for reading 5 books aloud." Lainey beamed her brightest smile, and Oliver felt that reading aloud to her wouldn't be as bad as he had thought, as long as they were short books. Isa and Jessie looked at their cards. Oliver will not make fun of Isa and Jessie's cooking for 1 month, Isa read. The twins were surprised. Everyone knew that would be a big sacrifice on his part. Oliver shrugged. "I think that'll be the hardest one." Mama's coupon said, "1 morning volunteering at soup kitchen." And Papa's coupon said, "Help Papa mow the lawn 1 time." The look of pride on their faces made Oliver feel itchy. "Okay, so what did you all get me?" Oliver said, breaking the moment and reaching for the presents he already knew were his. Together the family unwrapped the rest of the presents and exclaimed over each one. Oliver got his Lord of the Rings trilogy, plus The Hobbit. Jessie received a just-released science encyclopedia that easily outweighed France. Isa and Lainey got matching panda mittens. "I'll never give these up, never, ever, ever," Lainey declared. And Hyacinth got a new set of wool yarns in a rainbow of colors. Papa was surprised to open his gift from Mama and find a brand new pair of navy blue coveralls. "I'm sure you'll need plenty of fix-it mojo wherever we live," Mama said. Papa gave her a tender kiss on the cheek and put the coveralls on right over his pajamas. Hyacinth saved her special present for Oliver until the very end. When it was time, she stood in front of him and held out a shoebox encrusted with plastic gemstones. He stared at it with no small amount of trepidation. That means he's kind of worried. Before lifting the top, he pulled out a midnight blue hat long enough to go from his head to his waist. The very tip of the hat was knitted with fluorescent yellow yarn. "Did you run out of blue or something?" Oliver asked, lifting up the yellow end. "That's exactly what happened," Hyacinth exclaimed. The whole family held their breath to see his reaction. He glanced again at Hyacinth, then pulled the hat on his head. "Thanks, Hyacinth," Oliver said with a satisfied grin. "I actually always wanted a hat like this." The family gave a collected sigh of relief, and Hyacinth beamed with pleasure. Then the kids gathered together to give out the last present. Lainey held out a thin box to her parents. Mama had preemptive tears in her eyes when she took it, peeled back the tape, and opened up the paper, careful not to tear the wrapping. Nestled inside was a framed photograph of the wall drawing Oliver had made of the family when he was little. It had been printed to the exact same dimensions as the actual wall drawing. Tears rolled down her face as she lifted it from the box to show Papa. "This is perfect," she managed to say. "We'll hang it in the same location in our new bedroom," Papa promised. "Nailed the parents," Oliver said with a grin. He jogged around like Rocky Balboa, gave his siblings high fives. After the excitement of the Christmas gifts, it was time to get breakfast ready. Lainey and Hyacinth headed toward the kitchen, ready to help make pancakes. While the twins cleaned up the living room, the doorbell rang. France skidded to the door, his tail beating the air at 250 wags per minute. Isa shoved France aside and looked through the peephole. To her surprise, she saw the top of a head that looked suspiciously like the top of Benny's head. She unbolted the door and opened it a crack. It was Benny's head. He looked up when the door opened, smiling a hesitant, shy smile. "Benny?" Isa asked. Hey, what's going on? Isa glanced at her watch. It's 7:30 on Christmas Day. What are you doing here? I was just, taking a walk. Saw your place, thought I'd stop by and say hi. Wish you all a Merry Christmas. Benny trailed off. Behind Isa, Jesse gestured wildly to Benny, and he looked at her in despair. I'd better go help with the pancakes, Jesse declared, heading to the kitchen, where 4 pairs of curious eyes blatantly spied on Isa and Benny. It's really nice of you to stop by, Isa said to Benny, although aren't your parents wondering where you are? No, I told them I was coming by to say hi to you. They sent this. Benny thrust a bag overflowing with various sweetbreads and Christmas cookies at Isa. Isa took the bag. Wow, tell them thanks. Do you want to have breakfast with us? Benny glanced at Isa's parents, then back at Isa. Hey, can we take a walk or something? Isa blinked. A walk? Right now? Yeah, please? Let me see. Isa turned around to ask her parents, but they were nodding before she even opened her mouth. Stay on the block and be back within 15 minutes, please, Papa said. Isa nodded, grabbed her jacket, and followed Benny outside. They walked halfway down the block in silence before Benny mumbled something. Isa glanced at him. Was his face bright red? She leaned toward him. What did you say? Benny looked at Isa, his face definitely fiery red. I said, you look pretty this morning. Isa looked down at her outfit. Beat-up Chuck Taylors, faded fleece pajama pants with music notes on them, fleece hoodie, and puffy winter jacket. She tilted her head. Are you okay, Benny? She asked. It's true, Benny said defensively. I've always thought you were the prettiest girl I know. Isa's face quickly matched Benny's in color. That means she blushed. And after a few minutes of quiet, Benny stopped in the middle of the sidewalk. When Isa realized he wasn't next to her, she stopped and turned around to face him. Isa, I'm really sorry for what I said. Jessie called me yesterday and confessed that she had never told you what happened. I'm sorry I assumed you knew about it. I never asked another girl to the dance. I don't even know why I said that. I guess I was embarrassed. I'm really, really sorry. Oh, Benny, I'm sorry too. I would never want to hurt your feelings. You are one of my most important friends. I was so upset when you weren't talking to me. Since your sister's phone call, I've been waiting and waiting to come and talk to you in person. I wanted to come last night, but Jessie said you guys were doing a big dinner and that you were still mad at her, so I came as early as I could today. I needed to ask you something in person. Isa's heart stuttered as Benny took a deep breath. Isa, I'd really like for you to go with me to the 8th grade dance next month. Please, will you come with me? A slight breeze set a pile of feather-light leaves dancing and rolling down the sidewalk. Benny shuffling feet rolled against tiny bits of gravel, the sound echoing in her ears. Years later, her memory would linger on this exact moment. The leaves swirling, the gravel crunching, the crisp smell of winter, but most of all, she would remember Benny's face, so uncertain and always so dear to her. When Isa and Benny returned to the brownstone, Isa's parents' noses were pressed against the window. They waved as if spying on people on the street were a completely normal part of their morning. Isa gestured for them to come out, and they both acquiesced, that means they did it, without bothering to put on jackets. Oh, hey, Benny, so nice to see you, Papa said casually. He still wore his new coveralls, his pajamas poking out underneath. Hi, Mr. Vanderbeeker. Hi, Mrs. Vanderbeeker, Benny replied. Well, said Mama, rubbing her arms and shivering, what an interesting morning. Benny, are you joining us for breakfast? Just so you know, the pancakes Hyacinth and Lainey made are a complete disaster. Stick with the stuff your parents baked. Do you want to ask them to join us? Benny considered this for about half a second. I'll run over and get 'em. He loped off, and the Vanderbeekers watched him disappear down the street. Frigid from standing outside with no jackets, Mama and Papa ushered Isa inside. Isa found Jessie setting the table and pulled her into a big hug. Thank you, Isa whispered. Jessie nodded. Does that mean I'm off the hook with cleaning the bathroom? Nope, Isa replied. But you are officially and totally forgiven. Jessie considered. I'll take it, she said. Hyacinth and Lainey were busy setting the table, France in their wake. A wobbly stack of pancakes that looked like extraterrestrial spaceships sat in the middle of the table, along with a platter holding the breads the Castlemans had sent over and a clay pot filled with clementines. That means little oranges. Woof! Announced France, pawing at Hyacinth's feet. France, you know that pancakes are not part of your diet, Hyacinth scolded as she circled the table, laying out utensils. France continued to follow her and whimper, but Hyacinth avoided him. France, please, I'm trying to set the table. France howled, then grabbed a corner of Hyacinth's dress gently in his mouth and pulled her toward the stairs. Hyacinth was so surprised by France's strange behavior, she let herself be pulled. All the way upstairs they went, and when they got to the top, France bypassed the bedrooms, snuffled urgently, and pawed at the door that led into the building hallway. What is it, France? Hyacinth asked him. She pushed him aside and opened the door to find an open packing box on the doormat. France stuck his head over the top of the box and licked the forehead of the very same black kitten with white smudged feet they had left on the Biederman's doorstep the day before. The cat had a ribbon tied around its neck. When Hyacinth took a closer look, she discovered that it was the same green velvet ribbon she had tied around the placemat she had made for the Biederman. Strung to the ribbon was a tiny piece of paper. Hyacinth untied the ribbon from the kitten's neck and peered at the note. Please come visit me. I want you to know something. Bring the kitten too. Mr. Biederman. Dun, dun, dun. Woo, exciting!